Hello all, this is Mr. Lucid LJ here, back with a late night video for you guys. It's been a couple of weeks since my last audio commentary. I was away home for like 10 days and just been kind of busy since I got back. And just didn't have the time really, so I definitely thought I'd do a video talking about this subject now. Obviously it's a couple of weeks old, but it's something I kind of feel a few things that need to be said about this man, and that's CM Punk and him actually leaving the WWE. Now, a lot of people actually thought that this was kind of a work at first, maybe, and then it seemed like it was an actual legitimate leave and stuff. Now, I don't know all the full details. I heard something like he just didn't feel like the direction of his character was going much at the moment, anywhere at the moment. He felt like he wasn't getting used right. I don't think he was going to be in Elimination Chamber. They wanted him to, I think, lose a match against Cesaro as a qualifier. And, he's just not happy in general. Now, let me just say the negatives about what this has done, really. It's kind of screwed up a lot of plans for WWE. I think you were going to get Punk against Kane at Elimination Chamber in a small mini feud against the main storyline at the moment, which is the corporate angle, which wouldn't have been a bad match for CM Punk necessarily. I think that would have been fine. He probably would have gone over Kane at that pay-per-view, which is fine. Maybe it would have been nice to see him in the Elimination Chamber, but hey, he wouldn't have got a dreadful match either. And then the plan was probably him face Triple H at Mania, which to me sounds like a really good idea. Now, I don't know if they were going to use the whole Vince bringing Punk as his guy to face Triple H to take down this corporation, or the guys on top, Triple H, Stephanie, Kane, Angle. I don't know if they were going to do that, but it could have been an interesting storyline building up against Triple H and Kane, maybe even involve Kevin Nash, because a couple of years ago they had Kevin Nash cost CM Punk, and maybe Nash could be recruited as another guy, maybe to screw CM Punk. And I think Triple H actually bet Punk on pay-per-view back in 2011. I think it was at Night of Champions 2011. So it's kind of continuing that feud and continuing all the shit stuff that Triple H and Stephanie and Kane have kind of done to CM Punk over the past 3, 4, 5 months since the summertime, since they really took over and took charge. I can't for the life of me think of the name of the stable that they're called now. I've just gone blank on that, but that would have been a pretty high enough profile match for CM Punk now. I really don't know what he wanted. Did he want something even better? Did he want a WWE title match, perhaps? Fair enough, maybe, but I don't really consider this match kind of a low card match. It probably would have been like a top 3 match, maybe even a top 2 match, besides the Undertaker match. This could have been the second biggest match, even ahead of the WWE title match. So I really don't see the logic in why Punk said, "Oh, I'm going to leave," right around this time where it's usually WWE's best period in terms of entertainment, in terms of money can be made. I believe his contract runs out in July. So, I mean, Punk, why didn't you just stay around? Finish off your commitments, like Good Might Work said. Don't be a bitch and kind of leave everyone high and dry. You've left WWE high and dry. You left a load of fans high and dry. You could have just finished off your contract. If you still weren't happy then where your direction was going, you either leave the company and find work somewhere else. If you don't want to wrestle anymore, fair enough, just retire. If you want to wrestle, there's obviously other promotions out there, TNA, New Japan, maybe this new company Jeff Jarrett starting up. Why didn't you just finish off your commitments and then say, oh look, WWE, I'm not happy with what I'm doing at the moment. I'm not happy getting used or whatever, but or even sign if they say, oh, we can offer you this and maybe extend your deal for another year or so, or another 2 years, again, like another 2-year contract, then they can promise you certain things, and then maybe you'll get that. I mean, it just makes me laugh about CM Punk. I mean, the guy cut a promo 2.5 years ago now, the one in 2011. Now, a lot of people say this was a shoot promo. Obviously, it wasn't a shoot promo. Maybe some of the things he said in the promo were shoot about the way he was feeling at the time. But obviously, it was somewhat scripted because WWE wouldn't have let him say certain things if they didn't think it was appropriate to say. So obviously it was his own emotions and feelings coming out. Now, a lot of people were hyped around that time when he cut the promo and a lot of buzz around WWE. I mean, I feel like WWE could have followed up a little bit better on the promo, could have followed up a bit better on the angle. I mean, he won the title at Money in the Bank. He left for a couple of weeks, came back. I mean, I think he should have been off TV for a couple of months. Build up this whole angle, intrigue of Punk leaving, cutting promos on the WWE, you know, teasing all sorts of different things, showing up at different events, maybe buy a ticket to some WWE shows with a title. You could have done so much more with the angle. I don't think that they did a lot of good stuff with the angle. I think Punk could have been a good guy to do the angle with. I'm not saying he's a bad guy to do the angle, but I think they didn't follow through with certain things on the angle. Then he kind of fizzled out. Then Nash got involved. People complain and say, well, Nash was the problem and Nash screwed up the angle. Well, not really. WWE kind of screwed it up. Maybe Punk himself screwed up certain aspects by just not delivering some good stuff after that promo. He did some good things, but I don't know if his performance was good enough to kind of say, oh, look, WWE will keep him off TV till like Survivor Series, build up this big match between him and Cena for the title perhaps, or whatever direction you were going to go, some kind of match instead to build up where you have the champion who left against the current champion, maybe have Punk go over then or whatever. But there's certain reasons why Punk isn't the main guy in WWE. I mean, he isn't the main guy for a number of reasons. He's not the main guy because of his size, because of his look, his in-ring ability. He cuts decent promos. I don't think they're like these amazing promos that we used to see from guys like The Rock or Mick Foley or Stone Cold from the Attitude Era. So, in this day and age, I think this guy is kind of overrated in terms of people think he's one of the best ever. I don't think he's even a top 20 or 30 guy ever. I consider a lot of guys ahead of him. So it's kind of his own ego kind of gets to him at times. I mean, I think he believes he's one of the best ever when he's probably one of the best of a bad era. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you could be the best of your current era, because I believe this era is one of the shittest eras we've ever seen. So in that respect, it's not too bad. Like being, one of the top 3 or 4 guys of this era when it's not a great era, it shows how the era's not great, but at least you're good enough to kind of, be one of the top 3 or 4 guys, I think Punk, like I said, has the ego, has a lot of other problems, seems to think that he deserves more than maybe his abilities and maybe his just overall wrestling abilities deserve. He thinks he should be like an Austin or something like that when he's probably like, I don't know, just a good mid-carder from like the Attitude Era, like a Billy Gunn or something like that, Punk's had some really good matches. I'm not going to deny he's had some really good matches. He's had some really good feuds. He's had some really good promos that he's cut. But, because this era is not great, it's like he wants to be the number one guy of this era when I think there's still a couple other guys like your Randy Ortons and your John Cena's and your maybe even a Chris Jericho or a Triple H if he still wrestles, and a couple other guys who I think are better than a guy like Punk. I would consider a Roman Reigns could be down the line better than Punk because he has that size of a world champion. He has the look of a world champion. Maybe his promos are not quite there yet, but in time they probably will be with some help and some work. I just feel like Punk cuts these promos that are just not main event kind of promos. He cuts like promos where he gives out to the people who are on top, like your John Cena's, your Randy Orton's, your Triple H's, your Kevin Nash's, all these guys, or Hogan or Luger. He gives out about these guys, but in reality, he's being a hypocrite because that is exactly where he wants to be. He wants to be the top guy, even though I don't believe that he is the top guy. I mean, if there was divisions in WWE, I consider him like a light heavyweight. And as you know from UFC, what is actually wrong with being like the top light heavyweight of a division? Like someone like a John Jones, he might not be a heavyweight, but he's like the top guy in his own division, and the guy can draw. And I think that's WWE's problem. They've, backed themselves into a corner. They don't have enough main event talents. They've had to use guys like Punk, Bryan, Ziggler, and, a few other guys that necessarily don't fit that stereotypical mold. I mean, a Shawn Michaels is, not a big guy, but his in-ring is a lot better than Punk. Promo-wise, he's probably around the same, maybe even better than Punk, has a better look. Gimmick back in the 90s wasn't as good as his gimmick when he came back. I mean, Punk proclaims he's the best in the world. Now, look at all the things Punk was given in the past 2.5 years. He was given so much. I mean, you have to think about it. Before Punk cut the promo where he was disgruntled and actually wanted to leave the WWE, he kind of held them at ransom. He said, look, I'm not happy the way I'm getting used, blah, 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 blah. Now, my thing is, that year at WrestleMania, he had a pretty high enough profile match with Randy Orton. He didn't win the match, but he got showcased on WrestleMania. Like, a decent, high profile enough match for Randy Orton. And actually put on probably one of the best matches from not one of the best WrestleManias. So, he done well there. You have to think of it. In 2009, he was feuding with Jeff Hardy, and Jeff Hardy at the time was one of the hottest commodities in WWE, and just absolutely brilliant. Just had that aura, the star power around him. Just everything was clicking, and it was probably time that Jeff Hardy did get the world title. Probably even could have got it a couple of years earlier, but obviously with WWE's politics and shit like that, it took until 2008 to finally win it, and had a great run in 2009 as a world heavyweight champion. So they kind of took it away from him, gave him the world title, but he didn't complain. He ran with it. The only reason why Jeff Hardy was leaving because he was so fucked up on drugs. But then a guy like Punk, before that, had some really good feuds with Jeff Hardy in 2009. Feuded with The Undertaker, not the best of feuds, but was okay. Had the Straight Edge Society in 2010. Was leader of the Nexus for a while, was doing some stuff on commentary when he was injured. He was doing all different sorts of things. Now, for me, it's like, okay, you're getting paid to do all these things. You may not necessarily like it, but at least you're not doing nothing at the same time. It's not like Punk was never getting used in like these years. Even 2008 when he was the champion, when he cashed in on Edge, it wasn't a great title reign, but he got himself a world title. I think if this guy was in any other era, you're talking mid-card and you're talking no world title. So he's lucky to even have said by the time of 2010 or 11 that I'm a 3-time world heavyweight champion. He done some good stuff in those years. Like from 2008 to 2011, I think he did some entertaining stuff that was fun to watch, like the Jeff Hardy feud. The Undertaker feud was okay. It wasn't the best, but it was okay. The Straight Edge Society stuff was very interesting. This guy was like the top heel on SmackDown, and it's just like he wants more. He wants more. And like I'll just go through a list of things that he got after he cut the promo. He got more, pay-per-view matches, more main event matches. He still wasn't main eventing every show. John Cena got more pay-per-view main events when he was the WWE champion on his long run. So maybe, as the champion, you should be the focus of the show. You should be the main attraction. But the way WWE thinks is that if you don't have more of a look and a few other things that you'll not capture, the audience. So that's probably why they didn't fully trust him in that main event role all the time. Some pay-per-views he main evented, the B-level show pay-per-views, so it wasn't too bad. He got the 400-day title reign. Now, for me, it was a good title reign. Was it a great title reign? I don't think so. I think some of the feuds he had wasn't great. I don't think they were built up great. Punk was given the title, but did he do a lot with it? He did some good stuff with it and brought a bit more prestige back to the title. So that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. He had the match against Undertaker last year. It was a decent match. I'm not the biggest fan of these Undertaker matches anymore. They're kind of just the same repetitive kind of things, but it was a decent match. He got that with Taker, a big-time opponent at WrestleMania. He feuded with The Rock, one of the greatest of all time. The Rock comes back. He might be 40 at the time, but his look is amazing still. He kept in amazing shape. His in-ring was still pretty crisp for a guy of 40 who hadn't wrestled in 7 or 8 years. So he did well to come back and have a feud. I know The Rock took the title, but at the time it was best for business. It was best for the WWE to take the title off Punk, He had that really long title reign. Now, as a champion, I don't think necessarily the pay-per-view numbers increased or decreased. I kind of think they stayed pretty much the same. So him being champion, I don't think really detracted or added anything to the product because it's just Punk. You look at him and think he just looks like an ordinary guy. He's very skinny, he's got good wrestling, he's decent on the mic, but at the same time, what really attracts people to CM Punk? Where's the star power around him? What's the uniqueness about CM Punk? His ego is a big problem. It could be his downfall. I mean, if he'd have stayed around for the next 4 or 5 months until July, he's talking a couple more 100,000, legitimate money into his bank account. Maybe 250k up to 500k easily. I think he makes over $1 million a year, and that doesn't even include bonuses, pay-per-view bonuses, the merch bonuses, all that kind of shit. So he's lost out on money. And I mean, in the time that he was a pretty good heel on SmackDown, until he wanted this face push and the big push he got in the past 2.5 years, a really big friggin' push, he's probably earned more money, from DVD sales. He got, good merch sales. I think he got a couple of million a few years ago. He gets decent merch sales, so he's going to get money off that. So he was getting more money as well in the past couple of years, but it's it's just not good enough for him, and he's complaining. He got more TV time. He got more promo time. People say Austin left in 2002 and he didn't want to do the job to Brock Lesnar. Let me just tell you one thing, right? At least Cesaro had been around for a couple of years. Brock Lesnar was basically around a couple of months. And you're telling me one of the top guys of all time, one of the top 2 or 3 draws, one of the top 2 or 3 best ever to put over this, a good prospect, a good talent at Brock Lesnar, as we later found out was one of the best young prospects we've had in a long time, and a beast, a machine, an animal. But you wanted Brock Lesnar to beat Stone Cold in a King of the Ring qualifier, not even build it up as maybe a semi-final or a final match. This is different with Elimination Chamber. Cesaro, it could have been this kind of fluke win, kind of a unsurprised win, it could have worked. It wouldn't really hurt Punk's character. Kane could have got involved and screwed Punk out of it, and then that could have built up to their match at the pay-per-view. What's so wrong with that, Punk? There's a big difference, people saying, oh, well, Stone Cold left the company in 2002. Yeah, Stone Cold did leave the company in 2002, but it's a totally different situation. They were trying to put over a guy who'd barely been there a couple of months. Cesaro's been there about 2 years now, and it would have led into other things with storylines with Kane and other things. What would a qualifying match beating Austin on free TV led for Brock Lesnar? It would have really hurt Austin's credibility. I mean, if you build it up to a pay-per-view match and Lesnar wins on pay-per-view, you're getting the eyes to see that match then. I mean, you look at SummerSlam 2002, you had The Rock against Lesnar. You had a great SummerSlam card anyway, but you had a really good main event to end the show, and that match was built up really well. So having Austin lose on free TV is not great. I mean, Elimination Chamber is a lot different to the King of the Ring, I'm afraid. You know, Austin at the time was suffering from injuries and, you know, a few other personal things at the time. So, I mean, people like to say, oh, well, Punk, he's suffering from injuries. He's doing all this kind of shit. He feels very drained and stuff at the moment. Let me tell you something about CM Punk. I don't know if Austin had this at the time, but CM Punk has his own personal bus. Now, I know this because I saw it on his documentary about a year ago, and I don't know how long exactly he's had the bus, but I would assume he's had it for at least a year, maybe up to a year and a half. So you're telling me a guy who has his own personal bus getting paid millions to supposedly do a sport that he loves, and he even proclaims he's one of the best in the business, one of the best in the world, and then he turns around and says, I'm leaving. You know, why couldn't they have just tried to sort something out on Monday Night Raw a couple of weeks ago where he could have lost to Cesaro, but Kane gets involved, and then that leads up to their match at Elimination Chamber. And guess what, Punk? You're going over Kane. And then that would have led up to your Triple H match, and then you would have took down the establishment. You know? You would have bet Triple H at WrestleMania. I think that's where they were going, personally. So it's like all these complaints by Punk. You've left fans down. You've left the WWE down. You've left yourself down by leaving so much money on the table. You know, the WrestleMania this year, it might be on the network, so it might not be as much money as previous WrestleManias. But at the same time, you look at the merchandise sales, you look at the sales just in general at WrestleMania, like food sales, all that shit at WrestleMania, DVD sales, all that merch sales. You look at people still buying it on traditional pay-per-view. You look at people buying it on the network. You're going to get a cut off that, Punk. You're going to get a bonus, like you got a bonus when The Rock came at WrestleMania 27, 28, and 29. 3 of the biggest draw in WrestleManias we've ever seen. And then Punk was complaining that The Rock was getting the main event on 2 of them. You know? Punk, if you main event a show like WrestleMania, I would really be interested to see what it draws, because honestly, I think it would draw a lot less than 1 million, probably less than 750, if he had Punk and Bryan as the main event for any WrestleMania. I'm sorry. Punk and Bryan, they're good wrestlers, they've got decent gimmicks, they're good enough on the mic, but they just don't have that star power about them to be the main attraction of a wrestling show. I'm just sorry, people. You know, I like Bryan. I think he's done really well. He's done maybe better than Punk. And you see that guy complaining, look how badly he's been treated in the past 6 months. He's been booked really bad. But yet the guy still goes out there. He still gets over. He's not complaining like a Punk. You know, Punk, you need to wake up and realize what you've done. You're 35. You don't have too much left in a wrestling career. Maybe another 5 years, maybe longer. You know, enjoy it while you can. Make as much money as you can. And then say, look, WWE, maybe give you one WrestleMania main event. Maybe you might have got it next year if you weren't complaining so much, you know. I'm just kind of so pissed off at Punk, you know, doing this. It's the second time he's done it in the past 3 years. I mean, and just another thing, just to prove to people that Punk is just a complainer. You look at someone like Bryan. I checked how many house shows and how many wrestling matches he wrestled last year. he wrestled something like 230 house shows and Raws, SmackDowns, pay-per-views. I checked Punk's. Punk's wrestled half the matches. I'll tell you how many matches Punk wrestled through each month quickly, and then I'm going to end the video. So in January, he wrestled 2 Raws, 5 house shows, 1 pay-per-view. In February, he wrestled 2 Raws, 8 house shows, 1 pay-per-view. In March, he wrestled 2 Raws, 6 house shows. In April, he only wrestled WrestleMania on pay-per-view. In May, he wrestled no matches because he took time off, because he was complaining, yet again. In June, he wrestled 2 Raws, 1 pay-per-view. In July, he wrestled 2 Raws, 3 SmackDowns, 3 house shows, 1 pay-per-view. In August, he wrestled 1 Raw, 5 shows, 1 pay-per-view. In September, he wrestled 2 Raws, 10 house shows, 1 pay-per-view. In October, he wrestled 4 Raws, 1 SmackDown, 8 house shows, 2 pay-per-view. In November, 4 Raw, 4 SmackDown, 8 house shows, 1 pay-per-view. And December, 5 Raws, because he wrestled twice on 1 show, 4 SmackDown, 6 house shows, 1 pay-per-view. Total of 108 matches. A guy like Bryan wrestled double the amount of house show and general matches over that year. So Punk, you have everything you want. What else do you want? I don't understand this. I mean, people, please leave comments and tell me, what does CM Punk want? He has everything. He's making millions. He's doing something he loves. He has his own boss. He hardly has a heavy schedule compared to other guys like Cena or a Randy Orton or a Daniel Bryan. But yet he still complains and he still wants more. I just don't understand that. If I had that success and if I was earning that kind of money, a couple of million a year, you know, like a footballer or someone famous, I'd be quite happy. There's a lot of traveling, there's a lot of commitments, but this is the life you signed up for, Punk. I didn't tell you to sign up for it. You signed up for it. And you got a load of dates off last year where you didn't have to wrestle. I know there's special appearances and stuff, but still, this is your job. This is the life you chose. So on that note, this is Mr. Lucid LJ. Peace, good luck, bye-bye.